Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Bear Down Ballers here on the field of 68. I'm Ryan Wall, joined as always by Jordan Pollock. And Jordan, Tommy Lloyd became the first coach in Arizona history to win 20 games in each of his first four seasons in Tucson. So a milestone accomplishment for Tommy and for this Arizona team as they beat Arizona State for the second time this year. And also, Jordan, this was the highest scoring game between Arizona and Arizona State in a single game since 1998. So it's been over 27 years since then. So some pretty historic stuff. What'd you think of that game, and how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Jumping into March, man. I'm so excited. Got conference tournament right around the corner. Some of them already going. It's a great time to be a fan of this awesome sport. But I think some of my first impressions was, I think just how honestly, I'll give Bobby Hurley some credit. Arizona State came and fought with a very limited roster and just their ability to go into their bench. I thought Arizona State played super well with what they had, and it felt like they were pretty much in the game from start until the last few minutes. I thought they had an admirable fight, and as much as people are calling for Bobby Hurley's head, at Arizona State, I thought they played super well with what they had and having their backs against the wall.
Yeah, 100%. This was a really good game, very competitive game. It was within double figures in the second half. And Jordan, as we know, you can't have a game between these two teams and not have a technical or two. And there were multiple technicals in the first half, even. Bobby Hurley, Jaden Bradley each had a technical. I don't even think the Bobby Hurley one at the towards the beginning of the game. I don't think that was a technical. He was just you can call it technical based on that about a coach yelling at a ref on every single play, basically,
True.
especially in heated environments in these big games in March. But pushing that to the side, this was an incredible bounce back game for Arizona, especially on the offensive end. Three guys scored 20 plus points, and KJ Lewis and Caleb Love led the way with 21. And as bad as Caleb Love played in the game prior, he played just as well in this one. 21 points, five assists, five rebounds, 4 for 7 from three. Was efficient like he was in. I mean, he scored 20 plus points in three of the last four games. He's been really good for Arizona here. And KJ Lewis, we've talked about him, and I was harping on that he should be in the starting lineup moving forward, how well he's played. And both of those guys to me were the difference makers. And when those two guards play at that level, and not even just them two, including Jaden Bradley, as I've said in the past, if you have two of those guys, two of your three top guards playing at a high level, you have a chance to beat anyone on any given night. What'd you think of those two in this one?
Yeah, I completely agree. They're super aggressive, and even KJ with just how much of an impact he has on the defensive floor. I think his ability to get going offensively and hopefully to stay consistent. I know we were talking in our last episode about just his limited shot taking and how many shots he's been taking, and shooting the ball 13 times. I think it is huge for him and his confidence, and doing it at a very efficient level. I think is just huge for this team, and the scoring, which we've been kind of doubting with this team outside of Caleb Love, is just flat at times. And so I thought it was huge to have him go off and have another good game from Caleb Love.
Yeah, well, Jordan, those two weren't the only guys. As I mentioned, there was three guys in 20 that scored 20 plus points. The third guy was one of your favorite players, Henry Vasar, 22 points, eight rebounds, three assists, four blocks. It was 22 points was a season high for him.
Yep.
12 field goals, 8 for 12 from the field, most field goal attempts for him this season. This was I said this, it feels like a couple of times for Vasar this season, but once again, this was Vasar's best game as a Wildcat. He was just everywhere in this one, and when you have a 7-footer that can do the things that I just mentioned with passing the ball, blocking shots, scoring at a high level, rebounding, it really just opens up a whole new dynamic for your team overall. What'd you think of Vasar in this one?
Yeah, completely agree. And hitting two of his 5 threes is also a huge thing too, that stretches out the floor even more. I know they didn't really need it much in this game, and I thought that was a great move by Tommy of putting him on the bench for the first time in a few games. And that just gave them the ability to stagger Awaka and Vasar with just how limited ASU is. They didn't have much size, especially with their bigs pretty much getting fouled out in the last few minutes of the game. So I thought Tommy did a great job. And then Awaka had to sit quite a bit with his foul trouble, and Vasar played extraordinarily well. And they're definitely going to need a big game from him on Saturday if they're going to go into Lawrence and get a win.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a couple of minutes. Arizona in this game, just under 60% from the field, 43% from deep, and almost 80% from the line, while only turning the ball on over 6 times in this game versus Arizona State. I don't know the last time they've turned it over less than 10 in a game. And when you see numbers like that, it just leads to a dominant victory like this. And this was a great victory to end the season at home and moving into a tough game on the road. But this, like we mentioned, Arizona State did fight hard in this game. They had 5 guys in double figures, led by Alshon Mason. Mason was excellent in this one, 33 points, 6 assists, 5 3-pointers. Also, the freshman Josan Sonan was really good in this one, 19 points, 6 for 11 from the field. Overall, a really good matchup and game between Arizona and Arizona State.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's challenging, and everybody wants to point the finger at just how an ASU team with only 6 to 7 scholarship players, and I know one of them got hurt in just the first few minutes, how they can put up 100 points. But those guards played at such a high level, and that shooting from 50% of the three, I think, explains a lot of that reasoning of how just they were able to score at such a high level. But and it seems like right now, at least matchup dependent, like Arizona's just going to try to outscore people at this point.
Yeah, it seems like that's their best bet. And Arizona, as we've mentioned time and time again, is consistency. Consistency has been a problem for this Arizona team. And if they can get even, obviously, you're not going to have 3 guys in double figures, or 3 guys with 20 plus points on a nightly basis. But even if you could get, like I mentioned, a couple of those guys to just be efficient, I really think this Arizona team has potential. And we've mentioned their losing streaks, and before this game, they were 2-4 in their last 6. And this was a really positive game as we head to the final game of the regular season, which we'll move to that game. And like you mentioned, they head to Lawrence, Kansas this Saturday afternoon. It's tipping off at 2:30 p.m. Arizona time, 4:30 p.m. on the East Coast. It's on ESPN national TV. It's the 13th matchup between these schools in program history. Arizona's 4-8 against Kansas. Kansas won the last matchup in Vegas back in 2010. Arizona last beat Kansas back in 2008, and this is the first matchup that they're playing each other in Lawrence, Kansas since November of 2007. So a little bit of a rivalry renewal per se. What do you think about this matchup between the two?
I'm excited, but I think I'm a little nervous, like I said, defensively. And I think it's clearly just because of Hunter Dickinson. And this Arizona team has not really seen a do-it-all center like him. He's almost averaging a double-double, and he's just kind of the life of this Kansas team because he's really the only one that's super consistent on the offensive end and also averaging 1.5, almost 1.5 blocks a game. Feels like he's been around forever. As a Wisconsin fan, I've seen this kid since he was a freshman, and it just gets to a point where the dude is just a pest and he's a bully, and he's kind of been that way since he was 18 years old at Michigan, and it's kind of funny, and everybody likes to poke at him like with how old he is and he should get a job, and but like he's kind of the thing that's driving this team, and it'll be his senior night. Some say it could be his third senior night that he's participated in. I don't know if I would say that, but they kind of run through him right now, and I don't know if that really says a ton about just how underachieving the rest of the roster has been, or just how good and consistent that Hunter Dickinson is.
Yeah, you mentioned that he does seem like, you put it perfectly, he seems like the only light and life left on this team, as this is a really talented roster, but the talent's never been the issue. It's been them struggling to gel together, and Bill Self has really struggled to get this group to be on the same page. This Kansas team is 2-4 in their last six, similar to how Arizona was a couple of days ago. And this Kansas team is in desperate need of a victory and just to get things back on track before March Madness comes around, because they're fighting for their life, and they right now are 19 and 11, sixth in the Big 12, not a spot that Bill Self is used to, especially just the way they're playing towards the end of the year. It's not really how you want to end a season. And yeah, you mentioned Hunter Dickinson, and he's really just borderline unstoppable. He scored double digits in every game besides two this season. He's, like you said, he's a double machine on any given night, and this team is talented. They have Zeke Mayo, they have Dewan Harris, they have KJ Adams, they have AJ Store, and Arizona has struggled at times on defense, but the way Kansas has played lately, I know they are at home, but it's really as bad as Arizona has played lately. It seems like Kansas has even topped that, because it seems like Arizona just has more going right for them at this period. Do you think Arizona is going to beat Kansas in Lawrence on Saturday?
Yeah, I completely agree with your point. And I know we are talking about Utah last week, and their thing was like, well, are they playing at home or are they playing on the road? And that's not even a thing with Kansas. Like at home they'll look really bad at times. And so it kind of just depends, I think, a lot of it on their role players and how well they shoot outside of Hunter Dickinson. And so I think Arizona has an opportunity. But I think I think for them to win, I think they're gonna have to do what they've really struggled with lately. And I think that's play defense and be able to go into a really tough environment against a very talented team and be able to not turn the ball over, get into their offense and get good shots.
Yeah, 100%. Uh, Kansas still has a great home court advantage, even though they're
Definitely.
struggling on the court. But yeah, I really think this is going to be a tough game for Arizona because of Hunter Dickinson, and because we have just seen Arizona's guards, as well as they've played at home, when it goes on the road, Arizona's guards have struggled mightily this season. And I think it's just hard to trust guys like Caleb Love on the road right now, seeing some of his performances. And as much as Arizona, they need another win to extend their winning streak to two to close the year. But it just seems like Kansas needs this one more because of their losing streak at this point, and especially like I said, I don't know where they're projected right now, but if they lose this game against Arizona and lose early in the Big 12 tournament, they're really gonna struggle to make the March Madness tournament in a couple of weeks. So, my prediction, I'm gonna say that Kansas wins this game by 4 points. I think it's gonna be a close matchup, but I just think Kansas is gonna get the job done at home. Like I said, Arizona has struggled a lot on the road this season, and I just can't back them on this matchup right here. What's your final prediction?
Yeah, I think I would agree with you. I think it'll probably be a little closer. I'd probably put it at one possession, 2 to 3 points. But I think Kansas, they're in a little bit of a desperate mode. I don't know if I'd go as far to say they're in jeopardy of missing the tournament altogether, just because they still have been right on the cusp of being ranked, and metrics they're not a terrible team. But I think they are in a weird position to possibly like play a higher ranked team and be the lower ranked team in a matchup going into March.
100%, that's for sure. I'm still looking forward between this for this matchup, Arizona, Kansas, Tommy Lloyd versus Bill Self for the first time, and still two of the top tier programs in college basketball without a doubt. Arizona versus Kansas this Saturday 4:30. It's on ESPN. We'll be back early next week to break down the entire Big 12 bracket and discuss how far Arizona will go in the Big 12 tournament next week in Kansas City. But for now, that's all we're going to have time for. I'm Ryan Wall. He's Jordan Pollock, and we'll